trauma actually is something that impacts and affects the very fabric of who we are, the very nature of who we are. And it ripples through who we are, changing it. When something happens that's momentarily happy or momentarily sad or even momentarily scary, it may have a huge impact on us in the moment, but then it dissipates. We come back to equilibrium. But when trauma happens, whether it's a one-time thing or whether it's a many-time thing, when trauma happens, it actually changes who we are. So we don't overcome trauma in a way where somehow it was a thing and we have removed it from our life. What we do is we learn to no longer be traumatized by it. We learn to no longer have it dictate our lives. So normally the way that trauma ends up handicapping us is it makes us freeze, it paralyzes us, it makes us incapable of trusting, believing, continuing to do what we do, continuing to move forward in our world. It may send us into depression, it may send us into anxiety, it may send us into addiction. But it does all of that because it attaches an event that happened, whatever it was that was traumatic, an event that happened with our current mental, emotional, nervous system state. So my state in this moment, on this day at this time, is still hooked into and stuck to the experience that I had months ago or years ago or decades ago, and the emotional and nervous system state of that moment. Our bodies keep changing. Quite literally, the skin cells literally slough off and regenerate every couple of days. Every few days, you've got brand new skin. The blood cells, the bones, the muscles, the internal organs even. Over periods of days, weeks, months, or even a few years, every single cell of our being has been changed. And so working with trauma and overcoming trauma is really a deep experiential awareness of the fact that, yes, that which happened, horrible, awful, and I who am here in this present moment am not the being who had that experience. There isn't, if it's happened more than 7 or 8 years ago, there isn't a cell in my body today that was abused, abandoned, betrayed, hurt, traumatized in whatever way. What I need to do, though, is unhook my mental state from that moment. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is forgiveness. When we're able to forgive whoever it was, because trauma isn't always done by someone, but very frequently it is. Again, not always. Sometimes it's an earthquake. Sometimes it's a fire. But most of the trauma that most of us have experienced was at the hands of someone else. And the second step is that deep personal awareness through a meditative practice, through a contemplative practice, to recognize that isn't me. That's not me. I know in my life when I first came here at the age of 25, I was identified by, paralyzed in many ways by, deeply, deeply, deeply impacted, affected by trauma that I had experienced approximately 20 years earlier. And when I finally realized, wow, the woman who is standing here today on the banks of Ganga doesn't share one cell with the girl to whom that happened. And so I can feel incredible compassion for her, incredible sadness for her, incredible love for her. And I don't need to be paralyzed because it isn't me. Another really, really powerful way that I found is working with a mantra, because the way that trauma keeps impacting us is in our minds. We keep thinking about it, we keep moving through today based on then. And if every time that thought or that memory arises in your mind, instead you can work with a powerful mantra. It actually helps free the mindset, and it helps free the mental chains. And once that's free, that's the only place that you're holding on to it. The last piece that I would say is working with the body, things like yoga. Even though all of the cells of the body have regenerated and changed, there is a way that we tend to hold trauma in the body. And the more that I can mindfully work with my body through a practice like yoga, or a practice like Tai Chi, or Qigong, or these practices that really bring us into movement, stretch, flexibility, strength, but with a lot of mindfulness, you'll find that as you are able to free the body, the mind actually frees along with it. Sometimes it's easier to go in actually through the body than through the mind. So try all of these. And as I always remind people, there's nothing to be ashamed of to get professional help. I know in India there's a big taboo around therapists and psychologists and whatnot, but there really shouldn't be. Having someone with a skill to help you sort through the mind and emotions, it's, if you break out with a rash on your skin, you're going to go to a dermatologist. You understand this guy or this lady has gone to school. They understand what this rash might be. If you've got, pain in your kidneys, you're going to go to a nephrologist. You understand. They know about kidneys. And finding someone who knows something about the psyche, about trauma, about the ways that we get stuck, can be really, really helpful. So never feel like that's somehow something to be ashamed of or embarrassed about. Getting help is the way that we clear through whatever it is as quick as we can, whether it's a rash or whether it's something in our hearts and minds.